Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome back to the Carlos Speaks podcast. Number one, I am sorry that it's taken so long for me to get to the next episode. There's been a lot of changes in my life. Promotion ceremony, a lot of traveling. Life has been lifing, is what I'll say. So, to those of you who have listened in the gap of time between episode 5 and tonight's episode 6, thank you. I'm grateful. I definitely saw that there were a few downloads over the past week and a half. And I really try to get out a new episode once a week. But also, I try to be authentic and very true to providing episodes that I feel in real time. As you know, if you've been here for a while, my episodes aren't scripted. There's no necessarily a format. We just turn the mic on, we turn the camera on, and we have some dialogue. So again, thank you. Every like, every comment, every share, every text message, DM, comment. I'm grateful for it all. So thank you for that. I hope you're well. And if you're not well, I hope that something from this conversation helps you lean in the direction of becoming well. Something that we talk about maybe closes a gap for you, or it encourages some part of you to be healed, be it through whatever spiritual medium you support, conversation that may need to be had with someone, anything of that nature. So if you're not well, I pray that you do become well. Previous episodes, they were a lot. We would delve into my previous marriages. We delve into my previous relationships. Some of the struggles that I go back and forth with being a dad, and I got a lot of feedback. The majority of it was thank you for being so vulnerable, transparent, those things. And there's a kind of weird, nervous laugh that I give off before delving into something that is really personable, or personal rather, or something that is very close to my chest. Those things that are currently healing. So it's been very interesting to have dialogue about those previous episodes. One of the, I guess, pressing comments that I had gotten from the episode about my most recent marriage was, do you think that you gave everything you could have to make it work? And that's a question that I've asked myself. That's a question that I have asked my therapist. And to be quite honest, my answer is yes. I think that I did more than I should have to make that work. And that was my answer to the people who asked. And they said, of course, well, why do you feel that way? And it's because I gave so much of myself to that connection, to that marriage, to that relationship, that it began to do internal damage. And that damage manifested itself in other relationships. I lost a lot of friends while I was married. Some of those losses came from what I believe to be insecurities in my previous partner, because I have a lot of female friends. Have you met women? All right, I think I said that in the previous episode. So I'm surrounded by loving, nurturing, caring women, all platonically. And anybody who knows me knows that I cherish my friendships. So to lose those friends behind that relationship, in hindsight, was ludicrous to me. Who I am now would never have jeopardized those friendships, those relationships, those connections for the sake of a relationship that had already presented itself as incompatible, for lack of a better term. So, once I started becoming reclusive and isolated, and I wasn't as communicative, and people are reaching out saying, hey, are you okay? In hindsight, I should not have ever let that relationship get to the point where it's changing who I am as a person to other people. I think, like I said in the previous episode, the decision to walk away should have been made long before it was forced to be made. So I'll say that. So yes, to answer that question that I had gotten a few times, I think I did everything I should have. And even to make it more specific, I sought wise counsel, right? Because, I'm a young husband. So having those conversations with spiritual leaders, other husbands, mature husbands who are going to be, and that's a key. If you're going to seek wisdom and guidance from anybody in the realm of marriage, I think it is imperative to connect with people who are going to give you the business. I'm talking about, listen, hey, bruh, this is what happened in my marriage. This is how it affected us. This is how it affected me as a husband. This is what I learned as a husband. And this is how we moved forward as a team, collectively and also individually. I think a lot of times when we seek wise counsel regarding marriage, we get the aesthetically pleasing counsel, right? And what I mean by that is, you get the guidance that says, hey, it's marriage. It is what it is. You got to figure it out because there is no other option. No, there are indeed other options. Yep. And that might not be palatable or, easily digested by the elders of the church or the elders in black families. I'm black. I can't speak on any other experience. So, a lot of our grandparents stuck together through hell and high water. Baby, I'm not going to hell and I'm not taking a dip. Sorry. Life is entirely too short and I have too much to do to force a connection that is not called or ordained by God, more so than it is me desiring to be with somebody. Okay. Yeah, turn me up because I'm talking to me too. So yes. To close that gap before we get into tonight's episode, seek counsel from people who will be honest. Marriage is the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life, and I can explain to you why. So if anybody has ever come to me, and even the people who have had dialogue with me regarding the difficulties of marriage, man, I'm gonna give it to you straight. What you think about marriage? How much time you got? Please have a seat. And that is my top tier, top 5 pieces of advice as it pertains to looking for counsel in a marriage. Find somebody who's going to be honest with you. Find somebody who is going to hold you accountable as a husband, as a wife, as a unit. You can never have too much support when it pertains to the labor we know as marriage, baby. The labor be laboring. So yeah. So segueing, that was a terrible segue, by the way. Segueing into tonight's episode. And like I always say, this gonna be one of them ones. I know I say that. I say that every week, but I need y'all to understand that for me, at least, this is one of them ones. And I say that because it's near and dear and close to my heart. It is one of those spaces that is always in a state of continuous healing. And tonight we're going to be talking about grieving people who have not died. Even that in itself just makes me deep Negro sigh. Just, because it's one of those things. It's one of those things that I think happens very often, but people don't talk about enough. You know what I mean? Like, when people stop being friends, they're like, oh, I just don't rock with them no more. They on their way, a very run-of-the-mill, brush under the rug type of experience. And I don't think that's healthy. Especially being someone who has been so deeply entrenched in such a space. So let's get into what that means, right? To grieve someone who is not dead. I mean, very specifically, having connections that are severed, friendships that are ended, relationships that are ended, family ships that sink. All of those things. Any of the kind of ships that sink, I believe, requires a period of grieving. And I think that it is a multifaceted experience, right? Because I'm a communicator. I'm gonna overly communicate. I'm not just gonna wake up one day and be like, oh, I just don't rock with you, or I'm not a ghoster, right? I'm not just gonna stop talking to you one day, because I personally, I believe that is cowardice to allow someone to think that, or to leave someone to their own device as it pertains to why you don't talk to them anymore. You know what I mean? So in the realm of dating, right? You go out with somebody, you have dinner with someone, and it's not really your vibe, right? Say that. Rather than just not communicating anymore. And now they're like, well, was it me? Was it my breath? Was it the date? Was it something I said? And I don't think that it is honorable, for lack of a better term, or aware is an even better term, to do that to someone, because you don't want that done to you. Even if you have learned to take ghosting on the chin and say, all right, well, it is what it is. No, it's not. It is what it is. Something happened. And I think, or I believe, or I would prefer that you just had that conversation, gang. Like, just say that. Hey, look, we just not headed down similar paths where we can be aligned for what I want versus you want. Bada bing, bada boom, go about your way. Thank you for a great time, and dip. Versus just the dipping part. That was a terrible segue too. But to go back into the originating idea for tonight's episode, let's start at the beginning. I think it's always contextually important to start there. And what's the beginning, Carlos? I'm glad you asked. Family. Right. Again, anybody who knows me knows that I am from the deep South. I come from a very close-knit family, if you will. And early on in life, we're taught to put up with family because that's family, right? No matter what. That's family. That's your aunt, that's your uncle, that's your mama, that's still your cousin, that's still whoever, right? And we're taught at an early age to allow people to abuse us for the sake of who they are to us. That's still your mom, that's still your dad, that's still da 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 da. And we use that as a justifying causation to allow them to abuse us. And I think abuse is one of those words that we've kind of like made hypersensitive, and because abuse can have a myriad of applications. Physical abuse, emotional abuse, spiritual abuse, financial abuse, blah, 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 blah. So when I say abuse, I mean abuse in the general sense, right? So we're taught and raised to allow people to abuse us because of who they are. In my experience, because I can't speak for everybody, right? So growing up, it was always yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir, okay, all of the things that give the Southern aesthetic, right? Well-mannered, polite, not really reactive, explosive, those things, right? Southern hospitality, all that good stuff. And I think all of that, in my experience, has been a mask that we use to be pleasing aesthetically, right? We don't want to. I think for me, in my personal experience, that was the beginning of being conflict avoidant. If I'm in a room, say amen, right? But conflict avoidant in the sense of, all right, I'm going to just be quiet. I'm going to just, that is my mom. That is my dad. Because if I say anything, it'll be disrespectful. Because I don't come from a background of being able to communicate as a child. Because anything that I say that isn't childlike is disrespectful. Come on. Right? So, and if I'm disrespectful, I'm about to get turned every way but loose. So, in an effort to avoid getting my behind cut, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Even if that person isn't my mom, isn't my dad, isn't my granddad, isn't my grandma, because they're an adult. So we are taught to go along to get along before you get your behind cut. I don't want a behind cut, so I'm going to go along to get along. You just so stupid. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay. All right. And what happens, I believe, is that we grow with that mentality. Come on, somebody. We grow with the inability to communicate our true feelings from a fear of what that conflict might bring. Come on, I'm talking to me. Right? So the older you get, right? And even let's change the application of it. As a student in school, right? The teacher is always right. When I was a child, no matter the teacher might be irritated, teacher might be having a bad day, teacher might be going through it don't matter, because whatever that teacher says, that teacher is right. And the argument has always been that teacher got hers. Okay, well, that teacher maybe had a bad day and took it out on me. But I got to say yes, ma'am. I got to say yes, sir. Because I know that if this leads to conflict, I am going to lose every time. So I'll be quiet. All right. So, again, continuing the application of this mindset through our adolescent years, through our teenage years, into our young adult years where we're going to college and we're making connections in that 20-year-old 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old time frame. In my experience, it was easy to come and go because there is no communication. because of the want to be conflict avoidant. Instead of telling somebody you're not attracted to them, you just kiki, kaka, fall back until it fades away. All right. Follow me because I'm going somewhere. So I believe that the inability to grieve people and connections that are dead to us starts in our adolescent childhood years. All right. We're about to shift gears a little bit. So what happens when we create connections from that mindset? We have, at that age or that point in time, we have friends. Those friends grow with us, right? Everybody caters to their childhood friends, right? And so you grow, you learn together, you trauma bond, even though you don't know that you're trauma bonding as you grow, right? So fast forward from childhood into adolescence, that's A1 day one. That's game. You know what I mean? I ride, I die for you. So let's fast forward from there, graduate high school. Now we're young adults, right? I think at no point do we ever really consider the quality over the longevity of the friendship. Or relationship. Because there's some of us who are with our childhood sweethearts and we have the inability to communicate honestly because we're conflict avoidant, because we grew up together. I'm from where you from, so you on what I'm on. Your mindset is very much so similar to mine. So even though this connection may be unhealthy, nobody talks about it because of the inability to communicate honestly from traumas that stem from our childhood. All right, I'm going somewhere else. Watch me, follow me. So what happens is we create these connections that are founded and validated by the longevity of the connection. That has been my friend for 20 years. Therefore, the quality is already checked off without ever really evaluating the quality of that friendship or that connection or that relationship. Oh, we've been together 32 years, bro. You 33 years old. You've never explored anything outside of that. So are you truly able to evaluate this relationship with a sense of unbiasedness to gauge the healthiness of the connection? Are you communicating honestly or are you conflict avoidant? Roger that. So now let's double back to where you wake up one day and you ready for the smoke. You wake up one day and you are ready to have difficult conversations because you are now questioning the quality of the connection. So then the conversations turn into, how does this connection contribute to my life? And that, baby, is a question to ask. How does this connection contribute to the quality of my life? And we can walk it back one. Does this connection contribute to the quality of my life? I told y'all this was going to be one of them ones. So, if the answer then becomes no, this connection does not contribute to the quality of your life, then what is the direction then? Do we then say, well, it's been 20 years and I might be tripping, so I'm going to let it be what it is? Absolutely not. Even though that's what we do. For the sake of conflict avoidance. Because I don't want conflict with myself. I don't want to sit with myself and say, bro, this really ain't your friend. This really is not your person. Because those are difficult conversations to have even with yourself, much less the person you're connected to. But let's say, hypothetically, we've been going to therapy. We've been praying, we've been strengthening our relationship with God or whoever you believe in, and you are having a real life evaluative, I just made that up, evaluative approach to your life. And you start looking at your connections and fine-tuning them and looking for the benefit. Matter of fact, SWOT. Never thought I would use that in my life. But in my master's program, right, if you have an MBA, you are very familiar with what a SWOT is. SWOT is a diagram that identifies the strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of a potential opportunity to start a business in a given location. Now, let's SWOT these friendships, right? What are the strengths of this connection? Do we communicate with one another well? Do we communicate with one another openly and honestly, right? Let's talk about the weaknesses. What are the weak points of this connection? Are those weaknesses worth strengthening? Are we both collectively willing to build those strengths? Are those connections even happening? What do I need from the people that I am connected to consider them a friend? These are the hard questions that we very rarely ask ourselves. So, opportunities. What opportunities does this connection bring me? What are the threats? Is this connection easily threatened by an external or outside influence? And when you have that SWOT analysis, you sit down and you make a decision and you say, all right, this is either A, good, or B, is bad. And you decide, is this something that I want to continue or something that I don't want to continue? Or C, is this something that a conversation could fix? All right, let's move forward. Hopefully, y'all following me. I'm not taking the GPS. I'm taking the scenic route tonight, right? So, you get to the point where you're having these conversations, right, with yourself. And to really, really, really see this through, for lack of a better term or phrase, you have to have these conversations with the people you're connected to. And it doesn't have to be abrasive. Please don't let it be abrasive, matter of fact. Let it be communicative. Hey, let's go have a drink. Let's have a lunch. Let's have brunch. Let's do a thing that creates the environment or space in which we can communicate. And I think even that is going to be indicative of the quality of the friendship or connection or relationship that you have with a person. Because do they just say, okay, yeah, let's do it. You know, what's on your mind? Which is, again, like I said, indicative. Okay. And you have a conversation and you say, hey, I've been thinking about these things as it pertains to our friendship. You know, are we learning from one another? Are we contributing to the lives of one another? Are we sharpening one another? Because iron sharpens iron. Am I contributing to you and your life as much or in ways that you need for me to contribute? Do you feel like I'm a good friend to you? And be receptive of those answers, because more often than not, we operate from a sense of ego. So if somebody tells you that you're not doing something that you believe you are, the immediate reaction is, yes, I am. Why are you feeling defensive? Because what's understood don't got to be explained. And if you don't understand, then allow it to be explained. Right? Receive. All right, how can I be better for the sake of this friendship? And then the converse or the other side of that is, these are the things that you contribute to my life. These are the ways that you show up for me. But what I need from you is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. right? In a perfect world, you have that conversation. Y'all hug it out. Y'all shake hands. Y'all have a shot, whatever it is, and y'all go on and y'all be amazing best friends or a perfect relationship or great cousins or whatever it is. But what happens when that conversation doesn't go well? And the SWOT analysis then says this is not an opportune moment. This is not an opportune connection. This person needs to be severed. Then what? I tell you what we usually do. We ignore that and we SWOT anyway. We build anyway, right? And then we get frustrated down the road and we have explosive reactions to the inability for that person to be our friend. Because we brushed it under the rug. I knew this was a bad opportunity. I built on it anyway, and now I'm frustrated that it crashed and burned. Now I got to take this out on somebody. No, that's your fault, gang. So, SWOT says no. What do you do when you lose your best friend? What do you do when you lose your grandma? What do you do when you lose your brother? And when I say lose, what do you do when you have to cut them off in an attempt to protect yourself? Because staying connected to abusive people will continue the cycle of abuse. And every time you brush it off with they didn't mean it. They just had a bad day. They just, maybe I shouldn't have. And you're allowing them to continue to traumatize you. What do? You let it happen. More often than not, you keep it going. Because you don't want to lose the time that you've invested. You don't want to lose the experiences. You don't want to lose the memories. You don't want to. So, you have to make a decision, and you say, "All right, for the betterment of myself, the betterment of my life, the betterment of who I am, for the necessity to stand on business, I gotta cut this person off." And for me, that's been one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do. But just like I tell anybody, the valley is darkest when you in it. And on the other side of the grief is healing. There is fulfillment. You get to focus on the things in your life that are indeed good, that do indeed pour into you. You get to create a different sense of self. I think sometimes, more often than not, a weight is lifted because those connections that do not serve us drain us. Looked at your phone and were like, God, I don't even want to. I ain't gonna answer that. Or you have to filter who you are in the presence of the people you don't rock with, but they think y'all best friends. And you have to stop making excuses for people as it pertains to who they are to you and who they are not for you. And in my experience, the best way to do that is head on. So that means no communication. That means having that conversation that says, hey, I can't allow you to be who you are to me. Be who you are to anybody else, but I can't let you do that to me. And if that means that we can no longer be what we've been, then be well. And there's no maliciousness, there's no animosity, there is no hate, and those things aren't there when you know that you've done everything you could for a particular connection. When the actual relationship breaks up, and I'm not mad because I know that I gave everything I could have. I'm not mad because I know that I did everything with no ill intent. I'm not mad because I know I gave it everything that I had. And no, this isn't a conversation that says, do these things to make it easier. That is not easy, bro. It's not. It's not. There are major accomplishments that you have in your life where you want the people who've been there, the people who have witnessed it to be there, but they can't because of the service that the connection has brought you. And that doesn't devalue the accomplishment. That doesn't devalue the milestone, the benchmark, right? But there's a part of you that says, man, gang should have been here. Oh, well, turn up. And that kind of overshadows the grief. I don't believe personally that grief ever goes away. I think it comes in waves. Especially when there are rippling connections associated with that connection, right? Where if it's a family member, now that family member is family members with your family members, the people who do serve you, the relationships that do bring happiness to your life, but the hard part about waking up ain't Folgers in your cup. It's about having the accountable confidence in yourself that says, I did the right thing. And I'm going to stand on business. I'm going to be cordial. What's good? Okay. Wish you the best. Holler at you. And keep it pushing. But all of these things require that you be objective in your awareness of the relationships that you take part in. Relationships, friendships, family ships. What is keeping that boat afloat? Are there holes in the boat that needs to be addressed? Is that boat sinking? Those are very difficult questions that you have to ask yourself because those ships affect the quality of your life. Check your ships. Check your ships. And have the courage to communicate. Have the heart to talk. But more than anything, have the heart to hear, to listen, to understand. Thank y'all for joining me tonight. I pray that you're well. I pray that you move forward with the courageousness you need to communicate. I pray that you have a heart to hear. And I pray that there is something from this conversation that you're able to take with you as you go. Yeah. Until next time. Peace.